Oh my gosh. It was insane. This is the best cup of coffee I've had by like orders of magnitude. Got the Pro Tools session that created this vocal step. And I opened up, and lo and behold, just as I heard with my ears, the craziest plug-in death spiral of all time. We're talking every single plug is all the way filled up. And then it always goes to like an aux, all the way filled up.
You have so many wonderful thoughts. My brain gets overwhelmed.
I'm the same way with myself.
It's like amazing.
Like,
I don't know what
I
I was trying to say.
In a world where music creators have been hornswoggled by endless plugin death spirals, they said more plugins meant better mixes. They lied. Now, helpless producers and mixers are drowning in a flood of online misinformation and deceptive sales tactics, lost in a maze of conflicting advice. But one man, one legend, one mix sorcerer is here to save them all. Jeff Ellis worldwide.
If only they knew how simple the principles of mixing really were.
The only thing sharper than his ears is his mission. With short and brutally effective training videos, he's here to teach you the truth, the principles, how to get the full emotion from your song without getting hornswoggled by fancy plugins you don't need. The critics are raving, with reviews saying, "It's amazing. Worth every buck. Priceless knowledge. Buy the course or live in ignorance." Will you rise to the occasion and cure your mixer brain? Start your journey by clicking the link below. Don't get hornswoggled ever again.
So yeah, these are from a place in Santa Monica called Good Boy Bob, and it's a local artist that does the artwork for them.
I love this. I love intentional graphic design.
Yeah,
So nice.
yeah. It's fun, man. I thought about Starbucks yesterday and how they probably started the same way with like some little specialty coffee thing.
Yeah.
And over time, like, it became more about like, well, let's open another store and like we can probably save some money over here. And I can't go to Starbucks anymore. It's so synthesized.
Yeah. I read an article about this the other day. It's become the exact opposite of what it set out to do. What it set out to do, Starbucks wanted you to stand there as long as possible. And now they want to get you out as soon as possible. I despise the taste of Starbucks, but it has so much caffeine in it. The burnt, disgusting nature of that mixed with their heavy cream, which is probably just poison, together creates something magical.
I also think it's like there's just sugar in everything and all those like pump stations.
Yeah, the pump station.
Right. But it's synthesized syrups.
Yeah.
It's whereas far from, I mean, it's so simple. You grind it. Well, it's not so simple, but like in principle, it's like you have to have a bean, you grind it, pour some water through it, done. Do me a favor.
Okay.
You can smell the beans. You can whatever.
Have these been opened before?
No, you can just open it.
Woo! Incredible. Okay. I'm most excited for this one just because it's so strong out of the gate. However, the subtleties of these it's going to be different when water goes through it, right? So,
yeah, I was so happy. I got like, they were estimating for redoing the parking lot, and there's a point where all the stuff was like gooey and wet.
yeah.
And I got to like, no one saw it, but I got to put my like stank in it.
Oh, nice.
I just had like the candy was just like I had.
So my parents, when I was like 2 or 3, built this new house, and there became the moment where they wanted us to put our hands in the thing to see, like, in the concrete, and I freaked out and I was too scared to do it. And I threw a tantrum and I started crying. I was like 2 or something.
Oh,
I still remember this. And then we left, and then I was like, no, I want to go back and do it. So we drove all the way back, and I did it, and now my little hands are in there. But it's crazy the things that you can remember. Like, I didn't know I had that memory.
Did you know that supposedly like most of our memories live in our brain, and there's a few people, I think it's 1 out of a million or something, that can remember every day of their whole life.
the fact that humans can forget things is how we can move on. You know what I mean? Imagine if you had a vivid memory of everything that happened to you. It would be a struggle to move on with your life, or even have a sense of time. You know what I mean?
I suppose depending on like what kind of life you live, but I was so surprised like that they can remember it's like anything, just like really.
I don't have that. I have a terrible memory.
Same here.
Terrible.
Same here.
Yeah.
But I've started appreciating like I can rewatch things now.
You know what? I'm a big YouTube rabbit hole guy. You know.
I find YouTube is the most dangerous place of all. Like I'm off all social media except YouTube.
YouTube is completely like dopamine hijacked me. Yeah, this is so exciting. So this is this is one I was most excited for. Sure is. Wow. Have you had this before?
Oh, I have it every day.
Okay.
This is my favorite of all plants.
Okay. To see, that was the one I was gravitating to first. Good boy, Bob.
So do you see that that cream up here?
Yeah. And that's cream?
Well, it's called crema, and it's the cream of the bean.
Oh, okay.
But this is where espresso gets interesting. If you I use a very because this is a lighter roast.
Yeah.
I use a very fine grind on it, so it's kind of like sand. So
Yeah.
I really compress it, and that makes it harder for the water to get through, which gets more the oils or the crema out of the bean. So that top layer here has a very different flavor.
I have like a caffeine tolerance of the gods.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, I realized like a couple months ago, I was actually accidentally drinking like 800 milligrams of caffeine a day, which is like 2.5 times the recommended dosage. And I did feel like insane all the time. And then I cut down to like 250 and I was feeling a whole lot better. I do my best work when I'm out of my mind caffeinated. Yeah, I get like a window of 1 hour of just pure genius.
Okay, I have a feeling there's some magic in what you're saying. Like, if you can explain that some more.
Well, I find, especially when I'm doing like marketing related posts and whatnot, like I really come up with my best hilarious stuff when I'm just really caffeinated and I think it's funny. But yeah, I think every day I have like one quality hour where I'm ruthlessly over caffeinated and I can connect right in with the core of everything that matters in life and express myself in a way that really works well.
So, do you think that comes from being in a certain state of mind?
Yeah, ruthlessly caffeinated.
Ruthlessly caffeinated.
Yeah.
Is it just like a frantic feeling? Like, to explain that to more.
Yeah, it's like if some manic person comes up with like some crazy idea that's going to change the world, and then an hour later it doesn't even exist in their head anymore. You know what I mean? But in that little moment of insanity, sometimes you can like glean little nuggets of genius, right?
I find that mixing for me is a part of the compositional process.
Yeah.
And it's probably the one that's most undervalued. And obviously there are people like you that do this for a living.
Yeah.
And really like you have people doing like colorists in movies as well, like very, very, very detail-oriented work. And I'm so curious. I have a lot of questions for today in regards to the art of mixing, because I think it's a compositional skill.
Yeah.
And
mixing is just arrangement.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is arrangement.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said, I've never thought of it that way before. So it's almost like, you can orchestrate, but the orchestration has a lot to do with the volume of different instruments as well.
Yeah. In theory, like in my theory, like pretty much everything about the balance, the panning, all of that stuff, the selection is it's all about arrangement. To every song should have an objective, right? The objective could be to make you cry. Let's say the objective is with the song is to make you cry, right? Every sound selection, the lyrics and everything in the arrangement should be centered around achieving that objective to make you cry, right? So a lot of songs that make you cry, that comes from the lyrics, okay? So every mixing decision should be to highlight the lyrics so you can fall into that really sad narrative. And all the mixing should be around supporting that narrative, enabling the listener to connect with that like core emotional element, which is the lyrics. So, for example, if the mix doesn't sound right, well, it's just the arrangement's weird. You know what I mean? So every time you make a sound for a song, it should be intentional under what is this doing to serve the objective, and even to like where am I panning it? I have this thing that I talk about, which is like creating a magic bucket. So songs that are like very lyrically driven, you want like nothing to pull focus from falling into the daydream of the lyrics, right? So I had this thing, it's called Creating Magic Bucket, where I want to have everything as far away from the middle of the song, which I call the prime quadrant. And so anyway, we're doing all these things. It's just arrangement to try to get you to fall into a daydream, right? But the problem is everybody looks at mixing of like, oh, well, I need to put a Fairchild on the vocal, or I need to get this like Neve, this specific Neve EQ, or the vocal won't sound good or whatever. And it's like, meanwhile, they'll have an arrangement where you can't even connect to the vocal because the arrangement wasn't designed with a strategy of achieving an objective, right? So hitting like the arrangement right gives you goosebumps. Whereas like a specific piece of gear, like an 1176 compressor, is not the difference between goosebumps and no goosebumps. You know what I mean? Maybe it's like I talk about like with the Soundpaint thing, like the analogy I always use is that mixers, engineers, producers get so obsessed, and this is in mixing. This isn't in like instrument selection. So let me draw a huge distinction with that. But with mixing, people get way too obsessed with the paintbrush, okay? So the paintbrush, and then they ignore the canvas entirely. So the paintbrush would be like your EQs and your compressors, and the canvas is the song, right? Now, what I like to think of the paint is like the instruments. Like there's a synthesizer sitting there. There's like a ukulele-looking thing back there. There's a bunch of synths. So that's the paint, right? So you have your paintbrush, you have your paint, and you have your canvas. But people... the mixing is obsession over the paintbrush, but I don't. So, I'll obsess about thinking about panning all day long. No one cares about panning. Panning is just some afterthought that people have. Is like, oh, we'll do the thing, and then maybe we'll like pan it out in the mixing phase or whatever. But meanwhile, every selection in your arrangement should be designed with panning in mind. That is your arrangement.
I mean, look at the orchestra, right? Like you got the hundreds of years of evolution in terms of the exact placement, and how the different frequencies evolved to generate like the perfect pitch.
Yeah, like first violin, second violin, viola, cello, bass, or whatever. It's all intentional, right? And where they put everybody and distance and everything, because they used to work, why they still do. They have like the Decatree microphone, so the whole stereo image is where the people are sitting, right? It's all intentional, but yeah, it's like people don't care even about panning in mixing because it's not a cool looking graphical user interface, you know? So yeah, mixing to me is just, you shouldn't have to mix.
You know, we make plugins, and the way we decided to do it was to strip all the bullshit.
Yeah.
No wooden panels, no screws, no IVF emulating. It's not because we're not doing it. It's from a UI point of view. We don't want to try to imitate, like it is just a different thing. In a way, each of these layers in the computer just removes me a little more from right. I love the way you're describing with your hand. It's like the song is the essence. All the others is a flop and spices and whatever. But like the essence of it.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a bold claim, but it's true, and I know it's true because I open hundreds of DAW sessions a year, like hundreds, and no one else does that. Like, I'm one of the rare mixers on earth that doesn't want to get stems. I just want your DAW session. So that like puts me in a small bucket. And then on top of that, like I'm pre-mixing off the DAW sessions, and I'm a top mixer in the world. So I know as an absolute fact, because I'm not emotionally attached to anything they do in their sessions with the plugins they use and this and that. I just want the song to feel good when I listen to it. So when you open up someone's session with zero emotional attachments to anything that they've done, you start to see that no one's actually listening almost ever. They're just looking and doing things. They're just executing processing without ever actually listening. So you're talking about having a minimalist looking graphical user interface. Like I'm on board with that, and I can't even look at a computer screen and make a mixing decision. Like I do something in my studio called the split station setup, where I have computer worlds over here and I have a set of speakers, and that's for like editing and arrangement and this and that. But when it comes time to set a parameter, let's say like how much reverb there's going to be, how much brightness on an EQ knob, or what I want the level to be, I can't be looking at a screen because my brain is in like ocular processing mode. So I switch over, I remember I call it split station, to my other station here where I have a console that can control all the plugin parameters in my computer and has all the faders and stuff. And now I can make my mixing decisions without looking at the screen at all. And I can literally feel the second I stop looking at the screen when my brain is like in processor mode, I go into feeling brain is what I call it. And my brain just relaxes. And it's such, it sounds crazy and I would never believe this because the whole first half of my mixing career, I was just mouse and keyboard locked in. And I wasn't even mixing at that point. I was just doing things like everybody else is just doing things. I call it mixer brain. I was in my mixer brain doing things, but I was never actually listening. Like noodling, doodling, applying, putting on plugins, doing things, but never actually listening or feeling. So I like to look at nothing. And the problem is like a lot of people will have control surface and stuff like that, but they end up just collecting dust and skin cells and never getting used because people don't really understand why you would want the why behind it and how to integrate them into a modern workflow, which is something that I figured out over the years. But before that, I would just have faders because they look cool, but I wouldn't do anything with them until I realized like, oh, this is why it's great to never look at a computer screen when you're doing important things. So I have my split station setup, and that's like freaking changed my life completely. And I just kind of stumbled into it because somewhere along the way I sensed there's got to be a different way. And I was blown away that, now I can't, like in my home studio across the street, split station setup. If I'm at East West Studios, my other studio, split station setup. If I have to travel somewhere and mix in some studio, I can't do the like console with the screen here. Like it breaks my heart anytime I see a console. And this is how it always is, by the way. There's always a computer screen right in the middle of the console. It's like you're completely negating the whole point of even having a console.
Oh man, it's almost like you made me think like, a piano. You put the screen in the middle of the piano. It's like, why?
Yeah.
Like that's just, it was funny. I was playing with the R2600 last night.
Yeah.
And I didn't even activate the keyboard on it. I just started the oscillators on it and I can sit with that thing for hours. And I love the idea of also trying to create, but without the typical means. I mean, and you talk about the faders. I don't know if it's correct, but for me, as a layman, the faders is the closest thing I have to having keys.
Okay, yeah.
In the world of mixing, they're very powerful. Like that's, I can make it or break it here.
Alice is everything. So you said make it or break it here. Literally balance volume level is everything times 1,000. And it's the most overlooked thing ever because you can't really sell the fader so much. You know what I mean?
Like imagine if I spoke like this all the time and everything was just super compressed and it was just a brick of wall and I spoke like this all the time. Like it might be great for YouTube, but it would be really annoying and like I say that with like compression in mind. Like we spoke about it and they're like how, and I'm calming down and we're back to like a more normal dialogue. For me, that's the equivalent of not understanding volume. Like everything is loud all the time and all the channels need to go up in hyper compression and it's frustrating in the ear. And I don't think people even understand how damaging it is to use it.
It's so bad. It's so bad. And it's so, the whole like overuse of compression thing, like, it's so much worse than I know this. No one knows this as much as I do because I open up everybody's DAW sessions. Multiple times in my career, I've opened up DAW sessions for like top 40 ultra famous singers, and I just listened to their rough mix, and literally, in fact, let me tell this story. So I mixed like half of a Doja Cat album, which is like a really big deal for me because the album did really well. She's a huge artist, but I was originally only supposed to do a couple songs, and they just sent me some B-sides. And the reason why I got on that record is because I was regularly working with a producer that loved my mixing, and then he got on the record. This is how it usually happens. Like, producers that you used to work with get on an album. Sometimes the artist like finds you and stuff or whatever, but this particular case, the producer started doing work with Doja Cat, and I think he started with like 3 songs on the record, but one of them featured a super famous featured artist. And so they're like, oh, we'll send that one to like the super famous mixer guy because this is like so important. This is like such a single, you know what I mean? So from a record label perspective, that makes sense to like not take chances with, we'll send it to the GOAT, you know what I mean? The producer loved my first 2 mixes, and then what came back with that they used the other mixer on, they didn't really like it. Now, the difference between what I did was I opened up the DAW sessions, whereas the other mixer just took stems. But here's the problem. Everybody uses way too many plugins, right? So in modern mixing in 2025, what can you really even do if you can't get dry stems because then the production doesn't exist anymore, right? But if you get 100% wet stems, which is what most of these top mixers are taking, really, they just end up applying more plugins to that when there was already way too many plugins, and generally just making it louder. And there's like a whole like loudness wars hornswoggle that a lot of them have been running on the music industry for the last 20 years, okay? A lot of the top mixers never even really learned how to mix with emotion and art because before streaming normalization, the whole thing was just to win the loudness wars without like, so basically make everything as loud as possible while imparting as little artifacts as possible. That was the game. That's how you trick A&Rs into liking your mix and this and that. Just make it a little bit louder, and then when it gets to mastering, it's a little bit louder. And this is this chain that we've been stuck in forever. So anyway, back to the story. I hear the producer's like, I don't really like what this guy did. Can you try it too? And he convinced the label to let me try it. So I start to mix the song. I have the DAW session for the whole song for Doja and everything. And then there's a featured vocalist that they just sent us a stem, right? And I have this thing I call death spirals. I can hear it. It's like a death spiral, a plug-in death spiral is when a producer, engineer, whatever, just keeps applying plugin after plugin after plugin, and every plugin makes everything louder and brighter and louder and brighter, and they keep thinking it's getting better, and so I'll regularly open up vocals with 15 plugins on it, okay? 15, okay? I opened one the other day that had 3 instances of Soothe 2 on it for a top 40 artist, okay? And engineers want to engineer, producers want to produce, and no one's ever actually listening. Even the people that are working on top records don't actually listen, and they never actually learned any of the principles or how to listen, because everybody working today, for the most part, unless they're like, I don't know, I'm 40, and I learned in the internet phase, so they'd have to be like 50, 60, unless you're like of that age, you learn off of YouTube, essentially. So I get these death spiral plugin chains, that are insane. So I was like, well, okay, this feature vocalist is like, it sounds terrible. Now, most mixers will just be like, they'll just take it and make it work because they don't want to ruffle feathers. But I was like, I need to find the DAW session that created this stem that got put into this Doja Cat song. So I was able to track that down, and I got the Pro Tools session that created this vocal stem. And I open it up, and lo and behold, just as I heard with my ears, the craziest plug-in death spiral of all time. We're talking every single, I think in Pro Tools it's 6 maybe on the I forget how many plugins you put, 6 or 8 plugins all the way filled up. And then it always goes to like an aux all the way filled up. And then it like an all vocal aux, they filled up. And then the stereo bus all the way fell up with plugins. You know what I mean? And I remember the engineer had his like phone number and name in the comments in Pro Tools, like it was his signature, like a maker's mark, like he was a blacksmith that put his like stamp on it. I was like, oh my God. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, and this is so typical. This isn't a rare event. This is almost always I see this. So I was just like, well, what even is the recording? You know what I mean? So what I did was I just bypassed every single plugin, every single one that wasn't a reverb or a delay or an effect. Because I'm like, maybe she thinks this is her first like signature vibe so I don't want to like depart too much. So I literally just removed everything that wasn't reverb and delay. I'm like, I get the reverb and delay is probably like what I don't know. So I do that. Lo and behold, what was below the plugin death spiral was an absolutely perfect vocal take. Absolutely perfect. Oh, nothing. He's nothing. No automation. There's no sibilance. There's no nothing. An absolutely perfect vocal take.
I'm so curious, like what do you like the primitive analogy I would make is like makeup.
Yeah.
There's such a thing as beautiful makeup, and then there's like such thing where it just gets overdone. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like it's like you went too far.
Yeah.
Like, is it the same for these kind of things that they're delicate, like ornamentation tools to shape the sound, but they like the second that they become overwhelmingly, like, of course you can do some extravagant, crazy trap mix where you go, like you can experiment, but for the type of songs, top 40 that you work with as well, like I suppose it's about the clarity.
Well, we want to think that the slick pop vocal is a plug-in chain. Okay. So this feature artist's name was Ariana Grande. Okay. Her voice is fucking perfect. I put nothing on it other than the reverb and delay that they had on their session. Took everything off except for that. Bounced that stem out of Pro Tools. Put it in the master mix. If I did anything, it would have been the slightest bit of EQ maybe. That's it. And that came out on the record and it sounds fucking awesome. It sounds like slick top 40 pop, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's, hold on, I'm really trying to get into your brains for asking. It's you spoke about the song earlier on. Like, do you feel that this is about like getting to the essence of the song, and then
so I have something that I call the poignancy principle.
The point. Okay, sticking up. Yeah.
Well, so I don't like. Okay, so a singer like Ariana Grande is going to have some tools at her disposal to push emotion, right? She's going to have pitch, lyrics, timbre, volume. That's probably the biggest one, right? Volume that pushes emotion. Like, and then if I just, like you said before, if I just yell at you all of a sudden, I'm like, hey, or whatever, like, you'll feel it like, whoa. But then if I was like, hey, and it hit a compressor, then all of a sudden, no emotion. You can hear the word, right? So compressors don't know about poignancy. So certain words in an incredibly good singer like Ariana Grande will emphasize certain words to have specific poignancy. If you're thinking of like Whitney Houston singing I Will Always Love You, there might be an emphasis on the word love. So love might be a little bit louder, okay? Now your compressor or your Waves auto, what do they call the thing that like automates it, or vocal writer? These tools do not know about poignancy, right? So a compressor on Whitney Houston's voice is going to just take all the words and make them around the same volume. However, was like, but the word love needs some more poignancy. Like, I will always love you, you know? But a compressor's like, nope, just put them all the same. Now we never ever thought about that. So yeah, right. You're right. It flattens it up. Yeah. So what I do, and I call it poignancy and swagnancy. In poignancy, what I'll go through is I'll just listen to the raw ass vocal take, no compression, no anything. there's definitely situations where it's like there's tons of comps recorded in different places, and the actual levels are all over the place, right? So sometimes I, as the mixer, rebuild in the poignancy based on how I'm feeling listening to, because like maybe this take is quieter and this other one is, for technical reasons, the levels are all over the place. Now, an insanely amazing singer, they're super rare, that will just sing out the part and all the poignancy volumes are perfect. And then if you were to put compression on it, you just be ruining the poignancy, right? Now, all of these songs are gonna get compressed on the stereo bus a little bit anyway, so there's gonna be some compression there. So I use like 1 billion times less compression than everybody else, and my vocals sound way better than, they don't sound way better than everybody else. They feel way better because I'll go through, I'm not relying on a compressor. People believe wrongly that compressors imbue some sort of magical quality to the vocal. And this is just because so many of the people that came before us have taught that, or all the marketing is that like compressors make it upfront and big and this and that. But you actually don't like the sound of compression generally. You like the volume knob on the compressor. And all these compressor plugins start with adding volume almost all the time. Now, even if it goes to the analog world, it's extremely rare if you watch any studio engineer to ever like put on like an LA 2A or whatever. The before never is louder than the after. The after is always louder, right? Because when you get really good at normalizing, like working with a normalizing mindset that I do, you actually, in most cases, don't like the sound of the compression because it's a wall that you run into. Yeah. So it ends up being similar to playing a virtual instrument piano or whatever and having all the velocity be 127. It sounds super corny, okay? In MIDI, we know it's super corny. When it comes to compressor plugins and analog compressors and stuff, generally, we don't think it's corny. We think it's super cool. Now, every once in a while, these pieces of gear can impact artifacts into the source signal that is cool. Like if you smashed a room microphone and it brought up like the room and it felt kind of like a cool reverb, that's an example where the artifacts of the compression might be cool. But even then, people almost always listen to the outputting signal louder than the before, right?
Oh, yeah.
So even these artifacts that oftentimes we think are cool about like smashing things, if you balance the before and after volume really well, it's not quite as good as we think it is. Every once in a while, it works great. Like if you have a dry room and you need it, but even in that point, I even would just like use a transient shaper, which is a different form of compression that's like more designed for making use of those artifacts. But anyway, so
you know what made me think?
What?
Just that slight abstract intermezzo.
Yeah.
I'm doing all I can to compress the cut from absolutely maximum here because it yields the most like flavors out of it.
Yeah.
I wish there was a plugin that would compress like that.
Well, I in my course Mixer Brain that comes out in 3 days, I make a joke that I want to create a poignancy compressor that uses artificial intelligence to figure out the most emotional words in the song. And basically, so I have to literally clip gain every word in the song to be at what I feel is like the most emotional poignancy, right? So a compressor is not going to do that. So, but yeah, wouldn't it be great if there was a compressor that adjusted volumes based on the emotional impact of the lyrics?
I don't like that. I feel better, but you know what? Where is? I mean, but could you create a rule? Could you create rules for that? Is it always when they hit the high note and they add vibrato? Is there a way to create a method to the madness?
No, probably not, because mixing is so 4D chess that there's so many different implications involved in that. For example, you're also strategizing with volume about like what's gonna happen next. Like in the verse, right? At the end of a verse, if someone sings out like a vibrato thing or whatever, and it gets super loud and emotional, well, that might actually cause a problem with the drop into the chorus, right? So everything becomes 4D chess. If you listen to the song Roar by Katy Perry, right at the end of the bridge, she's like, roar, roar, roar. And she sings like that, but actually the volume is kept extremely low. I would never notice it.
Oh.
But she's like, roar. But the volume is insanely low. So that way, when it's like, I got the eye. Oh, like, and then the drop is like 9 dB louder than the verse. So there's all these like, strategy. Volume is a strategy game because it's balance, and balance is where all the emotion comes from, right? But people think it comes from whatever is like the hot new piece of gear at the time. And it's simply not that. Like the other day when you came over to my house, we were talking about In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins. And that is a perfect example of engineers. If you ask an engineer, like, what's the defining quality of that song? They'll be like, oh, it's the gated non-lin reverb on the toms, right? That's what they'll say. That's what they fixate on. But someone like me, who thinks about it in a different way, I think the most defining quality of that song is the entire song saves all of its energy, meaning the song is extremely quiet for minutes upon minutes upon minutes, just so the one tom roll can be like 12 dB louder than the rest of the song, and still even louder than the final chorus. Okay, so I call that a moment of glory, and it reserves all its mana, all the energy in the song, just so it can have this one boo ba doo ba doo ba doo boo boo. But engineers think that tom roll is so powerful because it was the perfect use of gated reverb. You know what I mean? But they overlook the fact that it could have been any reverb. That tom roll is like 12 dB louder than the rest of the song, and that's why we go ba 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 ba.
Remember, like you mentioned that you'd also, just for an experiment, you actually brought it down to normal level.
Yeah,
and then it just like it was just like
yeah. So for the people listening at home, in 3 days, it was probably out by the time you see this, I'm releasing an online course called Mix Your Brain to return everybody back to thinking about music in a sensible way. And one of the exercises I go through is I just move the tom roll down to where you would normally put like toms if you're just in your mixer brain. Mixer brain's a bad thing. Just like a sensible tom level, and the whole arc of the song just falls apart. So again, like, balance and volume is the difference between an entire like human species going like this every time they hear the song forever and being a massive hit, to where if you would have put that tom roll at a sensible volume as compared to the rest of the song, how you normally would do with toms, the song doesn't matter anymore. It's almost completely dead emotionally. So
I'm so curious, like, with all the boundaries.
is this the next one that I can try?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly, yeah.
So should we say cheers?
Mister, you're right. What kind of host am I?
Cheers. Ooh, I really like that wine.
It's very smooth. It's a lot smoother than the one before.
Very smooth. Interesting. This is the crane operator, right?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. Just because I'm really deep down the analog realm right now, we get vintage analogs like the ARC 2600 over there, which I think is such a beautiful machine because there's no compression.
Yeah.
You're playing with real electricity.
Yeah.
And there's so many small anomalies that happens in that realm.
Yeah.
And I could never get that in a computer. Not even close.
Yeah.
And I love the computer. Like, we fucking do this for a living.
Yeah.
But playing a real acoustic instrument or an analog, it's rewarding in a different way. Like, I look at these old relics as the future and the computer as the past.
See, I have to credit you and thank you for inspiring me to make. So originally in my course, I talked about the paintbrush and the canvas only. And then for some reason, I didn't even think the paint, right? And me and you is when I was like, of course, the paint is the source, the instrument, which is like, if we could get everybody to focus way more on the canvas and the paint because we talk about this. It's like, what's the point of creating these amazing instruments if someone reflexively just ruins it with a bunch of paintbrush stuff because they never actually listen, right?
I think a lot of people tend to go with what they already know.
Yeah.
So they tend to go with the color or the paint. Oh, it has to be that because that person didn't know all that stuff. And I lately I've started having like, well, if that person used it, you in a way you should not be using it because they've already done it.
Yeah.
So you're already behind in that regard. And then you and I'll never become John Williams anyway. So but why am I even trying? And I think there is something alluring about plugins and virtual instruments as well. As like, oh, you need to have that because it was recorded that studio. And it's like,
that's just mixer brain.
that is mixer brain. That it really is. For me, like the worst argument is like, well, it has to be recorded in that studio. It's like it doesn't matter where it was recorded. Yeah. Right, to your point with the song, the soul of the song, and I could make the greatest track in this room right now. Yeah. Or in a hall, whatever. Absolutely. But it doesn't matter where it is.
Right.
And I all this high 24-bit, it has to be recorded that hall, it has to use Neumann microphones. It's like, and we do it. But I don't think, honestly.
Again, they're focused on the paintbrush. It's just, so this is mixer brain. It's gotten so bad that I had to take a year out of my life to try and fix it. So instead of bitching about it all the time, which I've done for years, I'm going to try to fix it because I really think with AI and everything coming, this is the time where we need to double down on the human heart and soul and our music. But the best part about the mixer brain mindset, if you can cure your mixer brain, everything becomes 1,000 times easier. Like everything in mixing, we make hard. It's actually, mixing's very easy when you just stick to the principles. We make it hard with caring about all these things that literally just don't matter or make everything way worse, and completely ignoring everything that matters dramatically. Like when you were mentioning, oh, it has to be recording in this room or whatever, you'll get people that are like, oh, well, we shouldn't use reverb because Rick Rubin didn't use reverb during this phase of his career. I was like, bro, you're going to make your reverb decisions not based on the song in front of you. You're going to do it based on something someone did on a different piece of art 10 years ago.
I totally feel
But that's like what people do. And that's just mixer brain. And it manifests itself in a billion different ways. And when you free yourself of that, making music becomes so much more fun because you just remove yourself from all these prisons that you put yourself into. You stop having to do so much. You start listening again, and everything just gets more natural and more fun. Like, in the course, I mixed the song by the band The Neighbor, but that I originally mixed like 5 years ago. I mixed it again for the course. And just in my progress of having less and less mixer brain, when I remix the song this time, I'm using like 1/100th of the amount of plugins that I did on the first time. And the whole thing is just way better, way easier.
Dude, it's interesting because like this discussion I find perpetuates music on many different levels.
Yeah.
With Dave Smith that we worked with for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
He hated when people used too many effects in the presets and synthesizers.
Okay, yeah.
And in the beginning I didn't get it. I was like, but why would you put something in there and not to utilize it?
Yeah.
But over time, you learn like a lot of when you really get into the Prophet 5 pads, it's like, oh, okay, so there's In the Air Tonight, for example. And you declare it the purity, like a piano, like you don't need to put reverb on a piano, like it already has it sorted in the sustain pedal. Like, it sounds way better than anything. Like this notion of that we have to pollute something that is actually perfect to begin with.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. So in terms of like when to put on reverb or not, or delay or not, it's like presets are weird because you don't actually know like what the narrative of the song is yet when you start writing it or whatever. So people will often have like a vocal preset before even knowing the arrangement of the song. Do you know what I mean? It's like, how much room is there for the chest voice in the arrangement of the song? There in like a synth dance pop song, maybe not a lot. And of like a big open ballad, maybe there's room for down to freaking 20 hertz or something. You know what I mean? So, it just depends. So I like to look at effects. You're doing a stereo effect right now.
No, I didn't do it on purpose. I'm just realizing the shot glasses are.
It's perfect stereo. Yeah. Oh, now it's vibrating too. I just like that you're filling it 2 at the same time.
Yeah, this is for like double espressos.
You know what I noticed the other day? So there's a radio heads on. Thank you. Oh, sure. Hey, cheers.
Mr. Anti-Mixer.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Interesting. So this wasn't, by smell, this was one of the weaker ones, but by taste, this is like the strongest one, right?
I completely agree.
That's sweet. This one's super sweet. You don't look like you like it.
Well, it's interesting because like I drank hot chocolate for 2 decades. I did not like coffee. Then one day I was like, okay, I know I got they made a wrong drink. I got a mocha. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And then I got a little bit curious. Yeah. I started switching to mochas.
Yeah.
And then to lattes, and then to cappuccinos and cortados. I haven't quite made it down to like that level yet.
Okay. This is like brutalist architecture. It's like intense.
Right.
I love it.
We're on to the essence.
Yeah. The more to me it tastes like I'm eating something.
Yeah, because that's a different thing. And you notice how thick it is?
Super thick. Yeah.
It's almost like creamy. That comes from the compression as well. You can make it fatter coffee out of it.
That's as fat as it comes. Could you even drink a whole cup of this without dying? You would probably die instantly, right?
Oh no, you only have so much coffee.
Okay.
And because it's compressed so much, most of it is like.
So will you fill a cup like this with your choice in the morning, or would you prepare that a different way?
I'm gonna make you you choose which one you want.
Is it a different process to make a full cup than the one espresso shot?
It took me. I worked with a barista for a year to learn all this stuff. Like she's really, really good. Well, there's 2, Omar.
So you took time out of your busy Soundpaint life to just learn coffee better?
I went there 3 times a day.
That's epic. That's just because you wanted to know and learn.
Well, I wanted coffee first and foremost.
Oh, well, then learn because you were a customer.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But then Tanya was like, look, our bill's over $3,000 for a single month of coffee consumption. Like, get your own machine. Like, that's
insane. What coffee shop were you going to?
So that's Big Boy Bob's.
Okay, and that's in Venice or something?
They had one in Manhattan Beach and one in Santa Monica.
Okay.
One in the one.
I would go down there.
Oh yeah, we'll go down there one day, man. I love. So and then I started getting my own machine, and then
all right.
I kept on was like, why am I getting the house blend that you guys make and it doesn't taste the same at home? Because I wanted to be able to do the same at home.
Yeah.
So I started just every day I'll just go.
Yeah. Did you get there? Did you finally got there?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So how much is that machine right there?
What's that?
How much is that machine right there?
How much it costs?
Yeah. Is it more than 3,000? I'm trying to see what your recoupable time is on that machine.
Yeah, that's about 3,500 something like that.
Okay, so 1 month you recoup the investment, and then you're off to the races. So in theory, buying that machine, how long have you had that machine?
I've had this machine for a year and a half.
Oh my god! So you're like almost like $40,000.
Sure, so this, see how dense it is?
Yeah.
So this is a sign that it was compressed really well.
Okay.
You can almost let me see if I can do it on the camera. You'd almost break it apart.
Yeah, it's like a nice
cookie. Yeah, exactly. Wow. That's ideally how you want it. That's a best example of
I bring my best friend over on Thursday morning off camera for I'm just gonna start showing up now. And
I'll just do
what's your coffee time?
I normally start around 10 o'clock. These days I've been going to bed at 5 in the morning.
What time do you stop drinking coffee in the day? Caffeine cutoff?
Never. No, I have to watch out because I will stay up if I drink it at night.
Yeah.
Last one, 3-4 o'clock maybe, something like that.
Okay, yeah.
But
not terrible, not great.
No, I did it the other night. I was like, I don't know if you do the same. I'm so dumb sometimes. It's I think on it. Oh, well, tonight is going to be different.
Yeah.
So it's I made one 11:30 the other day, and it was great. I fucking loved it.
Yeah.
Sure enough, became pulse.
I do that all the time. In fact, I struggled to fall asleep last night for that very reason. If I can cut off caffeine by noon, which I hate more than anything, I just perform as a human so much better.
There's an old Italian saying that no espresso after, I think it's 11 a.m.
But it's such a thing in Europe to have espresso with dinner.
So what's your What's your final choice?
For a whole glass?
Well, it's gonna have milk. I'm gonna make you a cappuccino.
I think this one.
Your house blend.
Yeah, these are, man.
I'm with you. I actually agree. I don't like the one in the middle.
I liked them all. This is like a journey. You know what I mean? You always need to go on a journey. You know, it's a good journey.
I agree with you on the house blend. Like,
Yeah.
and you'll notice, like, if I made all of these, they're gonna be very, very different once we get to the milk stage.
Yeah.
There was
Interesting. So so it's like that.
So there's three things like that, and think about this in context of mixing as well. The first thing is like, well, the first thing starts with the bean.
Right.
No coffee, no bean, no coffee.
Yeah.
Then the next stage is like, well, how do you grind that bean? What's the coarseness of it?
Okay.
Lighter roasts, you make it finer. So because we're doing a light to medium roast, the coarseness is gonna be very fine. I'll share what it is, but it literally like sand.
Okay.
Because it's harder for the water to get through, so we can extract more. On this machine here, I can control the bar pressure, so you can control how much you're putting in. We're pre-infusing a little bit of water in the beginning just to get it going. Then the machine starts. And you'll notice me move this lever here once we get into
So such a nice lever.
so nice. Like this is Italian, by the way.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, we spoke about the steam engine. This is a result of steam engine technology. There was an Italian when the steam engine was made. He was so tired of making his own coffee in the morning. He's like, I didn't need to figure it out. So he built steam engine based machine that can make coffee faster. Hence the espresso make.
I'm gonna have to get me one of these and learn.
Okay, then the last. So that's his whole thing. Like, how do you use pressure and tempering as well? Like, how do you compress the coffee? That's important. Learning to use this. Even pressure down.
The tamper.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, is that called a timbre? I'm not sure.
I don't know. It seemed like the right word.
And then this magical wand over here, we could learn to steam milk took me about 6 months to really learn to steam.
Oh wow. Okay, so this is like the whole thing.
You tell me. I'll make you a call. You can tell me if it's like Starbucks or not, and then we'll.
No, I mean it's gonna be a whole thing for me to actually learn. You can't just like float into this life. You gotta.
I actually thought, I was like, in the beginning, and this is my arrogance. Like, you look at the baristas, they're kind of like, because they've done it a million times before. Like, how hard can it be?
Yeah.
Well, they've done it for a long time, and some of them, this is true to their life. I didn't realize baristas not just. I mean, maybe if you're Starbucks, whatever, but if you're like specialty coffee,
Yeah.
your life,
Yeah.
you care about it.
I love that. I love when people focus everything into a very, very narrow
Absolutely.
scheme. That's what I did with my life. Is just
I agree. And it yields better results.
yeah.
So let me try to
Okay.
persuade you with that, with the house beans in mind.
I'm not sure I could be persuaded. I think I'm fully invested in this lifestyle.
So your course is coming out in 3 days?
Mix Your Brain is out in 3 days, and I really hope it's going to be the spark that really pushes the. I hope a year from now or 2 years from now, when I listen to New Music Friday on Spotify, these records have the same kind of like. First of all, we're in a great time for music in terms of creativity. That's not the problem, okay? But we're in a terrible time in terms of audio engineering. It's just like awful.
I think it's actually gotten worse.
Oh my God, it's a billion times worse.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just listen to it. Then compared to just like the sonic quality, the ability to push emotion, and oh dude, it's so bad. I mean, just it's so easy to, and young people are confused when they go back and listen to certain older albums, and they're like, this is just like something's different about this. You know what I mean? It's because they have rich dynamics. They don't have 15, like all the emotion isn't removed in the production phases. And I know like just firsthand, because I get all these DAW sessions and everything is like, most mixers aren't going to go to the lengths that I do to try to like finesse the emotion back into music. And almost every working audio engineer doesn't even think about emotion when they're mixing. You know what I mean? So we don't have these incredible sounding albums anymore. Every once in a while, like, something will come out that is just like a masterpiece through and through. You know what I mean?
Frank Ocean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, that was in terms of, but even there isn't 15 vocal, or there isn't 15 plugins on Frank's voice. You know what I mean? It's like nothing. You know, but like selling that concept to people is very difficult because the world has tried to tell them that to be an engineer, you need to have a magic wand and just start like magic wanding all these things into your music to make it sound better.
Dude, I saw the dumbest thing the other day. It was one of the CEOs from one of the AI music companies saying, essentially saying like, well, people don't want to make music like that. That's sort of time consuming. And I'm like, dude, like, please keep saying that.
Yeah.
Like you are, that is as off as it gets. And like, and take your AI company down that road and make a little army of prompt engineers that think that they're making music. Yeah, good. No harm there.
Yeah.
But it is the exact opposite. I mean, I was just like, people pouring money into this shit, and it's like, it is dead to begin with.
And not only it is like the deepestly uncool behavior ever is just like generating music based on prompts like that. Humans, it's the same thing I think about like computers started beating chess players like a decade ago, right? A human cannot beat a computer at chess, but we don't watch two computers play chess against each other.
No.
We watch humans. But beyond just the song itself is the story of the person behind it, right? And that's what we want to fall into.
I know.
So we can watch two inferior human chess players battling against each other.
Don't you find with AI as well, like, for me, like the more I use it and I see the pictures online, the more I'm like, you can smell it, you can see it.
There's like one,
How do I, you'll notice that I'm using this thing here. Forgive me for
okay. Is that a scale or a timer?
It is a scale. So I'm using, there's a specific like yield ratio for, we really want to get into it. Like, so I do 9 bar pressures here.
Yeah.
That's just really hard extraction.
Yeah.
I'll be doing about 20 grams of bean and a yield of 39 grams coming out.
Okay.
So we're getting twice as much water to the bean ratio. So it's very, if you can imagine, like it's like twice the water to the coffee we put in roughly.
Okay.
So that's why it gets that compressed kind of taste.
Interesting.
And then we dilute it with milk. Anyway.
Wow. Okay.
If you were wondering, you probably weren't, but that's the scale.
You're operating so effortlessly back there that I haven't even like even noticed anything. It's just all happening like a dance.
Dude, I'm actually we have this place up in Napa.
Yeah.
And when we're up there, for fun we're opening a place called Crossroads. It's just where our friends come by.
Okay.
I actually think I want to do it at some point. Like I think I have it needs to be like kind of like specialty barista, but like an appointment only 2-3 hours a day.
I like that. Yeah.
But you know,
Isn't that the dream? Just put this all away, live in Napa, and make coffee for 3 hours a day.
Dude,
I'll have to build a studio up there.
So you see here.
Wow. I see.
And if you notice down here, this can be your cup. Okay, all the nice cream on there.
Wow. So this isn't done because you're going to put milk in it, right? Oh, yeah. So I can't touch this yet. No touch. So you have this milk secret. So you have the A2 milk. That's smart. Yeah, the cows in Europe are a different breed of cattle genetically. And apparently we've evolved better suited to digest the lactose of an A2 cow as opposed to the American A1 cow.
Just look at mortality statistics. Like, how come this advanced nation had like the people dying at the earliest age, almost 10 years before people in Japan? Like, but for me, it goes back to that Starbucks thing. Like you look at the shit they pour into it with their pumps and their sugar food and all that stuff. You take that at mass scale, McDonald's.
Yeah.
You know, plugins, like I often refer to, like, this is my permanent, I love your versions way better than mine. But like, I'm like, a lot of this stuff is McDonald's for the ear.
Yeah.
Like you think it might be good in the moment you put on that compressor, whatever, you stack it all. But in the end, it's just fast food, musical fast food.
Yep.
Okay. So everything I'm hearing you say, really comes down to like just the humanity or the heart of the song, like the, you know, the Bob Dylan and the guitars. That doesn't have to be anything else now. Like you spent Rick Rubin, like the Johnny Cash thing of Pain.
Yeah.
So simple.
One.
So perfect.
Yeah. If you think about the cover Hurt or whatever, if you listen to the mix of that song And I'm 90% sure that I'm right about this because it's been a second since I heard it. But the mix of that song is like 98% vocal, and then whatever the rest of the instrumentation is like 5% of the volume, right?
Oh no,
Because the vocal in that song is the core emotional element, as I call it. And the objective of that song is to make you feel, I cannot even have the words to like say the emotion that you feel when you hear that song, but it's just like emotional. So we fall into the daydream of Johnny Cash's voice, because even when it comes to balance, setting levels of things with if you're at your computer, you're just going to be looking at your plugins or whatever, and then you're not falling into the narrative. Where out on my console, you're setting your levels now, instead of like, I'll see these like YouTube tutorials, like the vocal should be 6 dB louder than the kick drum, or like put your kick drum at -6 dB, and then this and that. And it's like, what are you talking about? When you're setting the level of a vocal, you want to set it on the moment where you fall into the daydream of the lyrics, if that's the objective of the song, right? If the certain like rock songs, the guitars are like the core emotional element, so they would be like way up in front. That's what's pushing the emotion, and the vocals much more down. But so just little shifts in the perspective of how we approach mixing, right? Not setting levels based on some formula or some cheat sheet that you bought online. Sitting there at the console and feeling a song. At what volume level do I feel the most pain in my heart when Johnny Cash is singing, okay? Now, if that means it's way louder than the rest of the song, that's totally fine. Even if you take it back to the Phil Collins song, In the Air Tonight, if you listen to the whole first part of that song before the tom roll, the vocal is like 95% of the song, and there's like 5%. You probably don't even realize it. Go back and listen to that song and listen to like how low the whole instrumentation of that song is as compared to Phil Collins's voice. Insane. But you don't, when you're in mixer brain, you don't set levels based on emotion. So you end up putting things like, oh, the track in the, you don't want like the note, like you ever hear someone say, oh, the vocals on top, it's on top of the mix or whatever. Like, it was like, yeah, it is. That's the core emotional element. You know, was that a problem for Phil Collins? Yeah, maybe Houston. Or, you know what I mean? So,
you know, that song is an interesting to use because like it's a fairly advanced song in terms of like the layering of vocals. Like he sings through a vocoder sometimes. You got the Prophet 5. He's using the CR78 drum machine, but with a chorus effect on it.
Yeah.
But despite that, each time it's like one or two effects, and this is an effects-rich song, but no more than that.
Yeah.
And I find sometimes the problem, and this goes for sound design, it goes for anything in life. I mean, the worst pizza I ever made was, I was way too high, but I got there was like chocolate gummy bears on a pizza should work.
Yeah.
Because I love chocolate gummy bears.
Yeah.
And I love pizza. She's a
worked,
to
right?
explore the
Yeah.
whole thing. We called it gummy bear sunrise.
Did it work?
No, it was horrible.
Damn.
But there's just it's this notion, well, this is good and this is good, so
Yeah.
everything should be good.
Yeah.
Instead of like, no, it's the exact opposite.
Yeah, you still have to look at the canvas.
Yeah. Hold on, try it up before you mill.
Should I try it? Oh my gosh. Okay, this is insane. I could see how you were racking up $3,000. This is way more than a drink. It almost is like biting into a croissant.
Oh,
Like in like a buttery. This is easily the best cup of coffee I've ever had in my life, times 1,000.
Oh. Well, here's the weird thing.
This is insane. Wow. If there's a way that you could package this, you can't. But if you could and like ship it everywhere.
Well, I think it's back to the Starbucks. Like, well, it's made with love as well. Like, if you really like someone caring for the ingredient. I mean, it starts with the people caring for the beans that source the right beans. You've got the perfect blend of Colombian beans with the African beans. There's specific acidic ratio to those.
This is insane.
But it's I find like in a way it's exactly we're talking about the same thing, because like this is like simple ingredients made in the purest way possible.
Yeah.
Stripping it down, but trying to work with good ingredients across.
Yeah.
And boiling it down to the essence,
Yeah. This is
like level.
this is the best cup of coffee I've had by like orders of magnitude. And now this has changed my life. And yeah. It's interesting. The whole like universe is balanced. You can't get this without everything you just went through. You have to go on a journey to have this. What's I'd say, you can't ever bottle this or package it, because by like definition, no, that's why I want to have to go through this process and go through it for it to be like this.
I agree. And that's why I want to use strain right away, because even the milk, you'll see it starts getting dry on top. Like it really should be like just right, like within 30 seconds, you need to start drinking it,
Yeah. Oof. Like 2 seconds after you sip it, you get hit with this, like, you've ever had a buttery croissant? You know what I mean? It's insane. It's more like, it's like I'm drinking and eating at the same time, but it's not like it's some like thick thing. It's like, it's really hard to describe.
I'm so glad. Well, I'm happy we're neighbors, man. I'm not that far away.
Me too.
This is my daily ritual. I mean, but this is also why, this is the problem. Like, I can't go to Starbucks.
Yes.
I just can't. It's just never going to happen.
No, I need to like intern with you or something.
It's not that hard. Like, if you can, the thing that really took me a while was understanding the grinder over here. And you have to understand how to grind based on what kind of bean. And it's pretty simple. I mean, there's like basically 3 types of roasts.
Yeah.
And you set the grinder based on that. But I mean, if I show you just see a little bit.
Well, if you think about it, it's like the journey of making the thing too is all part of it, right?
So try to see how thin it is. But if you feel it between your fingers.
Oh, wow.
So, that's why, and I can probably make it even finer than this, but like this is, this,
if I was like moon dust.
Exact. If I made it more coarse, it would taste different.
Okay.
And that's what fascinates me, that I can have the exact same bean, but depending on like how coarse the grind is, it tastes differently.
Wow. So, I mean, the process of making this thing, you say it's your morning ritual, right? It's like, oftentimes the process itself is like the most rewarding bit, So when we were talking about like, AI, like prompt engineer makers, this removes all the process, and it's like you won't have
it's like having an instrument but not play it, like one of those like load a MIDI file into your guitar and it will play for you. Like what am I doing?
If anybody at home has ever had like written a song, or okay, for example, when I finished my course, basically when I finished it, there's like the outro movie. When my whole course came together and I watched the outro for the first time, I literally cried.
Aww.
Because I accomplished something greater than I'd ever done, more impactful than I'd ever done in my life, and I cried. Now, there's songwriters at home that will remember like the first time their own music made them cry or whatever. Or you got so deep into the emotion of making the song that you like teared up with it. I remember the first time that happened to me when I mixed a song, and the resulting emotional impact was so much more that I like teared up. I'm not like crying all the time. This is extremely rare for any songwriter to compose something that brings them back to a place that makes them tear up. And that's the journey that makes it like ultra rewarding. Meanwhile, like some CEO wants to distill that down into some, right? People don't want to go through the process. So dude, that's like, it's completely not real.
It's so interesting, man, because like I came to the US studying AI like about 20 years ago, and from music, and like that's my background, and I think it yields so much potential. Like you mentioned, it could be cool to do like an intelligent compressor, there's so much potential in this technology. It's just interesting to see that this first round of execution is about as distasteful and misaligned with the arts as it could possibly like just tech bros without any deeper understanding of the arts. And I don't think I have no problem. Go for it all day long. Generate like pollute Spotify with more AI generated tracks and improve your revenue, whatever. It won't matter in the long run.
Right now,
like to your point, like we want to feel.
Yeah.
And there's like it may be some smart kid, 15-year-old with a laptop in bronze can like take like some AI stints and make a cool new version.
Sure, there's always going to be a lane where shenanigans will have their place. And 100% there's going to be AI tools that make whatever, but it's always going to be the story behind the person that did the thing. So without the story in a vacuum, it won't matter. There's always, it's still, it can't be two computers playing chess against each other. There always has to be the story, or we're just like bored to tears. Meanwhile, when it becomes that anybody instantly can generate a thing or whatever, it's like, okay, well, what now really sets this song apart? What's that once in a lifetime moment that you experienced that you were able to distill down into something captivating? But I love AI in the way that it levels me, and it's gonna level up like people, like creatives like me that like suck at bookkeeping or like doing this, like proofreading our shit. Like, it levels us up so much in certain like mundane task ways. That's gonna have such a positive effect. Like one of my assistants, Ivan, who's like me, like ultra creative but like super disorganized, like the way that AI is like organizing him is like leveling him up like dramatically. Man, Mixer Brain has like 120 written sections in it. And I wrote them all myself, but being able to run it through just to make sure if like I'm missing a comma or something, you know what I mean, has been just shaved so much time off of, like, you know what I mean, to write the thing, okay, like make sure that I didn't misspell word. Like I was literally writing the word principles, Principles, as principals, Principals, like so many times. And having something to help like snap me back into the correct is like, it's just such a level up for everybody. But principle, like what's the principle of the school? You know what I mean? The principal of the school, or
right.
Or principles, like yeah.
Forgive me for like the only downside to Espresso is like all the sounds.
True.
You take care of your ears?
No, but one thing that I have gotten really good at is what I call my magic mixing volume. So I never touch my volume knob. So I'm always mixing at one volume that's a very like healthy volume for my ears. So that being said, like, do I take care of my ears? Kind of. There's I've gotten really good at not banging music all day. You know what I mean? It's funny when I go to a show. Yeah, I kind of have to wear earplugs or my ears won't work right for the next 4 days.
Yeah,
that really sucks.
Same here.
But that's not to say that I wouldn't, for my favorite band, just say fuck it and have my ears get blasted out. But I am like aware of it. But I'm definitely not like, I'm not gonna rob myself of my one favorite thing on earth all the time. You know what I mean? Everything in moderation.
Even moderation?
Yeah. So if I'm gonna go to like an incredible show, like if I went to the Sphere for the first time and there was some like immersive. Did you go to the Sphere? Were you talking about that?
Yeah, we saw YouTube there, which is
YouTube. Yeah. I feel like if I went to the Sphere and I got like, I'm gonna just not have earplugs in. You know what I mean?
Cheers, man.
Cheers. This is so good.
Thanks for dropping by.
Yeah. I can't even believe that coffee exists like this. I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't know like there was it's like whole other harmonic of sound that I've never tasted before, which is, yeah, you can't get this at Starbucks. But this is a completely different lane. Starbucks is just like if you need caffeine poison to face your life for one more day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, totally.
This is,
but they can go together. Like,
yeah.
He also, you know, it's funny you asked about like the ritual earlier, like this, I deliberately put the milk in the other kitchen.
Okay.
So I have to go get it every day. That's
Okay.
how the ritual, just like a no rush.
Yeah.
I saw I follow this. I love him. The guy who wrote Powered Now, Edgar Toll.
Yep.
He had one recently where he just said like, hey, like just even when you make food or take the trash out or whatever, just do it slowly. What's the rush?
Yeah, I keep telling people once a mixer brains out. So I've read all those books too. And I've like drifted so far from those lessons recently. I'm so like, just to finish Mixer Brain, I've made all these compromises in terms of just like, I've been like ramped up like crazy for months now. And I keep telling people, when this is out, I'm just going to slow it down. I need to slow it back down. Just internally, my like, everything is like ramped up like a mad person. And I've been so singularly focused on, because it's a real problem. Like the way that audio engineers are destroying emotion and music is a real problem. And this is like a way where I can make a global impact and improve everybody's lives. I know it sounds dramatic, but it's true. Like if I can en masse educate loads and loads of producers and they adopt these principles, they're going to start making like what they always wanted to make, but they're struggling because they've been led down a dark path.
Yeah.
So it's just going to have such a dramatic impact on the world as a whole. So I'm just like, I got to get this out. I got to get this out. It's got to be right. And it's got to be in such a way that's fun. And at times it's super silly. Like I'm trying to teach concepts that go completely against the religion of audio engineering en masse. And do it in a way that like people of all different genres and levels of skill can kind of, so it's been like difficult to put this together, but I think we got there. I think we're there. So, and then it's got to be not expensive or like so expensive that all your bedroom producers in the world can't afford it. Like, cause the main thing is it's like a way for me to like make money and retire someday, but it's also like, I want to en masse be able to heal music. So
I remember the first time we met, we both have this thing about like music in the 80s, early 80s, early 90s, which I regard as the sweet spot of production, like Tears for Fears, that like in terms of sound.
When you're talking about like audio production, recording, so that, for sure. Like,
and engineering as well. So in a way,
engineering, for sure.
What I hear you say is also like, that it's sort of the modern engineering, the dawn of plugins, and to some degree, even the dawn of people making virtual instruments. Like you play a real grand piano, it does sound different than a sample for a beautiful session, and that's coming from someone who makes it.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of with digital came a lot of pollution.
Yeah,
and then I heard something the other day that I never thought about before, but this is about the analog workflow. The thing about like when they work to tape or like is that everything was in scarcity, so you had to think more about like what am I putting on here. You had to be more prepared because tape doesn't last forever.
Yeah,
so that you got a different level of performance.
Yeah, they couldn't during the analog days. They were put into a position where they just like accidentally didn't have Mixer Brain as much because they were extremely limited. They never looked at a computer screen, so just that alone, it's so much more. Everybody at home, like listening to this, like or whatever, it's like this is way bigger than you think. Why analog? A huge part of why analog feels so good isn't the actual gear itself; it's the workflow. So I've tried to duplicate an analog workflow in a modern age because there's a lot of advantages of digital as well. Having a console, not looking at a computer screen, keeps you in feeling brain all the time. You don't ever bring that like ocular, you feel your brain shift. It's like when you're like looking at a thing and processing and decoding, your brain can't do feeling brain and like decoding computer. At the same, you can't do it.
I love what you're saying.
Yeah.
I had this when we built Soundpaint for me. I want to build a sampler where the UI doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It just works. So I'm just writing on the keys like I would be with an acoustic instrument.
Yeah.
And every decision in it is around like the idea of speed. Because I have, and it might be a caffeinated thing, like I'm about, if it takes 5 seconds for me to wait for something, I lost, I may be out of that feeling.
Yeah.
I think it's very delicate to stay in that feeling, particularly when you make plugins and software.
Yeah.
Like it's so easy to distract people with new engineering features, whatever that just takes you further away from the music. I think the most elegant thing for us making software is actually to get it completely out of the way to the degree you speak of, which, the software is just facilitating my expression.
We should actually go over to my studio at some point and see how the Soundpaint interface maps to my Avid S1 just to see, because so I have it set up to anything I click maps to at least one knob, right? But it'd be interesting to see how it lays out into that system and how much, because it could be that like literally you can adjust the whole the whole, what is it, the whole plugin itself, like without ever looking at the plugin itself. That's like how I would.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we have, so for example, like, and you're right about that as well. If you right click on anything in Soundpaint,
Yeah.
you can assign it to whatever controller you want.
Yeah.
That's the fastest way for me to get away from,
Yeah.
like, so I could just like, you live over here.
Yeah.
I can just focus on the music as well. I really, and I think it's interesting, particularly like building software,
Yeah.
that I share your opinion, even though it's contradictory to what I do.
Well, the problem is that to sell, this is there's a perverse incentive to make your shit look badass to sell stuff. We're talking Soothe 2, okay? The coolest looking plugin ever, the best font ever. But from my experience, is the most destructive plugin. Like, I've opened up thousands of instances of Soothe 2, and almost always it's just making things worse, right? But everybody has it, everybody uses it, and it looks fucking awesome. They just released a new plugin called Bloom that when you bypass the plugin, it goes to black and white. You know, and then when you unbypass it, it goes into color. This is the I don't want to scam as like like every plugin advertisement on earth on Instagram. Just go on Instagram. Every single one of them will do before black and white, after color, right?
Oh my god, that's like the old commercials. Like, you know, like the
yeah, they do it. It's in every single thing now, because so to try to do the right thing in terms of music is not always like selling anything in music is not always like what's best for the client overall. So what we end up doing is all like, there's a huge incentive to have your plugins add volume, add brightness, and look really fucking cool. There isn't imagine a compressor plugin that opened it up and actually opened up and then it was doing gain reduction and already just made the song the source quieter. Everybody would think that plugin sucks. That's why they all get louder. Okay, so like you're saying, yeah, you want the graphical user interface of Soundpaint to be minimal or whatever, but as you know, as a business owner, that's not necessarily in the short term the best choice to sell units. Now, in the long term, just like brand loyalty, because you're trying to do the good thing, that's a long play that you might end up doing better as a business owner. However, in the short play,
that's the idea.
Yeah, the long play, yeah. So the long play is the way, but it's the scary path. And
yeah, it is.
It's a long play for sure, and I appreciate that. And
but I think, you know, just like you said, like I find like in our conversation today, I'm sensing like a deep rooted philosophy that you're using all these different examples, but the philosophy for me is the essence of the song, connecting to the soul, getting distractions out of the way. And I think in essence, it's the same with plugins. So in the long arc of time, like it's probably wiser to do that. For example, we've done a lot of 3D UIs in the past. They all look so dated. They dance so quickly, you know?
It's like, looks like Tron or something.
Yeah. I mean, there was a day and age where lens flare was it. Like, and so be sure that, so the harder thing for me is to learn to embrace like ultra minimalism and try to do that in a timeless but functional way as well. It's an old principle from the old Bauhaus school in Germany, where they're trying to say that form, function, and beauty should all be equal.
Okay.
And very, very hard to do.
Yeah.
It's way harder to do a minimalistic interface than it is to do a 3D one.
Yeah.
But what is the essence here? And how, and most importantly for me, like, how can I get this out of the way?
Yeah.
I don't want to look at the screen either. I want to close my eyes or look at the keys. I don't want this.
If I was a composer, I would probably set up my studio. So on the side, I would do split station setup. On the side, I would have the computer with the computer monitor and a pair of speakers. And then on my other station, I would have a control surface and a MIDI controller, no computer screen. And then experiment and see, work that way for a month and see what that's like. You would need a transport, right? So you can do different cakes, and that's easy to set up. with control surfaces and stuff, and get used to living in that linear. That's another thing too. When I do passive automation in a song, I'm living in a linear world, right? So as I'm going down, I'm noticing the way that different parts of the song are playing into each other. I call it macro dynamics, like the volume of the verses and the choruses and the bridge, and like weaving all these things to achieve emotion. But you don't notice this stuff as much when you're in looking at Pro Tools or Cubase or Logic or Ableton or whatever. So everything, I notice a lot of mixers won't even notice there is a guitar solo. This is so funny. And like the amount of rough mixes I get where the guitar solo or whatever, like any kind of solo is just like not at a solo volume, because people just don't even realize that, oh no, this is now the core, this is the core emotional element of this part of the song. It needs to be front. These things aren't noticed because you're not listening. I can't emphasize this enough, that split station setup. I just kind of stumbled into it accidentally. And it changed my life. And I was like, oh, this does make sense. This is why a lot of the old timey people can't get away from their analog consoles.
I agree.
Because, and it's like, a lot of times we think that, oh, it's just like the transistors and the capacitors and all that stuff. But like I think it's the workflow.
I completely agree. And you made me think, because like I've worked with multiple stations for a long time.
Yeah.
In the past, it was mainly just because like, well, I need PC and Mac, and I don't have time to sit and boot or whatever. I just need instant access. But over time, like my latest one is like, well, one of them become a looper now.
Okay.
Like a hardware looper.
Yeah.
Because that way, I mean, I can still use the software, but that's just to grab my sound, and then I can play. And the looper is tactile hardware.
Yeah.
So I can just quickly do, and it is, I used to joke with Dave, because he invented MIDI as well, that in a way it's probably the most important invention in music in the last 40 years in terms of what the new styles of music genres that came out of it.
Yeah.
But music also became on a grid.
Oh, yeah.
The quantized.
Yeah, the quanta, yeah.
And great for dance music, techno, arguably some pop as well. But man, it killed a lot of music too.
Yeah. Pocket is like, ugh.
Pocket, I was not, let's just strip it. Let's strip. So I mean, it's like it's kind of like AI for its time.
Yeah.
You know, let's just strip any form of humanity out of it and put the notes here like Bach would have wanted it. Like,
yeah,
I'm not so sure. Like,
there's some people that like, if I think about like Pocket, I think about like Josh Freese, the drummer. He's like, just certain people have such Pocket that it's like, you can't, I don't even think like you could do it. I don't know why it feels so good. Frank could be like, he understood Pocket so well that he could be like, hey, shift this word 300 samples to the right.
Okay. Oh, wow.
We have, so there are people left that like really value and understand Pocket, but yeah, just straight quantizing stuff, like certain things it works well and certain things it does like not work really well at all. In fact, it's quite terrible. And if you obsess over Pocket long enough, it's like, oh, you can make such a big difference over just like finessing Pocket. Like I personally am always around 300 samples at 40. If we're in like 44.1 a session, 44.1, I'm like, oh, anything I perform, no matter what, even if I'm like, Jeff, lay it back. I'm like 300 samples ahead, no matter what. So I just like play a thing, boop, boop, boop to the right.
Yeah.
And, but I obsess over Pocket all the time. And,
I agree. Kind of like, cause like, if we take the two worst analogies of today, like one thing is like the loud compression, and now I'm also speaking like in perfect rhythm, like I'm becoming more and more mechanical. Or I guess I'm auto tuning myself as well. I mean, it is just getting nastier.
Even if you can have one thing in the session, even if you're like, let's say it's like kind of like a disco-y song where all the drums are like just on the grid. Even if you can have a bass performance that's not on the grid play, but here's the thing. Here's the problem. So most people kids nowadays will try to make like a disco song or whatever. And they'll and then they'll play a bass to it in a rhythm guitar, but they don't have tasty Pocket, right? Their Pocket sucks. So what it is like a grid slammed drum kit and a bass part with a shitty Pocket. And a guitar part, they're trying to be like, what's his name? Nile Rodgers. They're trying to do the funky shit, but they don't have the Pocket.
I know. I watched, because we're doing disco guitars right now, and I watched every freaking Nile Rodgers video I could, and we have a wonderful session guitar player but it's very, very nuanced.
It's so nuanced, but it's not like only music snobs feel the difference. Everybody feels the difference. So people.
So let me ask you something. You have so many wonderful thoughts. My brain gets overwhelmed.
I'm the same way with myself.
Really, it's like amazing.
Like
I don't know what I was trying to say.
Well, I'll be in situations too. If you can have one, imagine like this is like the old adage of just like replace your band's drummer. If you can get a track and get a really fucking great pocket on the drums, then you can source that pocket for the rest of the song. So even if the guitar player kind of their pocket's shit and the bass player's pocket shit, like in fact in Mixer Brain 2 when it comes out, I'm gonna like dive more into pocket. But if you have like a really incredible pocket on the drums, then you can start gritting, like chopping, and all by hand, and you can like lay the bass in this order, lay the bass part right behind the drums, just slightly behind the drums, right? And then right after that would be the rhythm elements like guitars and keyboards and stuff in that order. And then that's slightly behind the bass. And then the vocal is like the last thing. So those drum, bass, musical elements, if you have to build pocket into the track, and then vocal, right? And then you can kind of source the one person whose pocket didn't suck and like apply it to the rest of the song. And I've rebuilt whole albums this way. I'm like deep editing and shit, because respect pocket is like everything. So it's the same reason I can play all the chords that Nile Rodgers, I'm saying his name right, I always forget his name. I can play all those chords, but it's gonna fucking blow.
Yeah. Because you make me think of jazz music, like, and I think it's really I heard recently that some of the jazz programs are getting cut, and it made me really sad, because I think in jazz which led to so much of where with band, how the instruments speak in a modern context. It's really about you listen to the other person and you form something better than that was what I was trying to say before. Yeah, it's the sum of all parts.
You know who has great pocket is church players. Church play. They have like what I can identify. First of all, I personally have no pocket in my body whatsoever, but after years of obsessing over this stuff, I can feel it and hear it. Can't necessarily dance to it, but I can tell instantly. Oh, it's like, oh, you grew up playing in a church band. There isn't too much about pocket in this particular Mixer Brain, but Mixer Brain 2, there's going to be a big thing about pocket, because it is so, like it's make or break. It's the reason why it's life. It's the dip swing between disco and like some weird attempt at disco is the
absolutely pocket. It's the same as someone going on a date who has game and someone who doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for conveying the round one of all your wisdom.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the best cup of coffee I've ever had in my life, by far.
I'll make you many more.
Okay, great. I'm looking forward.
And you also, it's kind of interesting trying milk on the other ones as well.
Like, you have to do that. Check out Mixer Brain.
Yes.
MixerBrain.com. Coming soon. I mean, it will be out by the time you see this, so.
Yeah, and we'll be promoting it on our channel as well. I've gotten a sneak peek, and it's absolutely beautiful, man. I mean, it's a summary of all we talked about today.
Sure.